It's time to talk about Las Vegas with Ira. Each week, Ira David Sternberg talks with the celebrities, entertainers, writers, and personalities who make Las Vegas the most exciting city in the world. And now, here's Ira.
Anything you want us to be, bring us your fantasy, LV.
I guess Paul Sallach is flying us 5,000 feet above Las Vegas in a Cirrus SR-22. So even though I'm the host of the show,
Citation
Paul
804
is the
Bravo
pilot.
Charlie,
I'm
Henderson
sorry,
Tower, make straight in.
You're the pilot, Ira. What are you talking about?
I think you're doing it.
Clear
He's
to
founder and president of All in Aviation. It's a Las Vegas-based flight school with two locations, one in North Las Vegas and the one we're flying out of, Henderson Executive Airport. His company, Cirrus Aircraft, is available for rental and flight training, and we're doing the flight training right now. For information, go to allinaviation.com. That's allinaviation.com. And Paul, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for being here. You're in the left seat of an SR-22, the world's best-selling airplane.
This is a first for me. I've done interviews in all kinds of strange places. I've done it at an airfield in Tonopah. I've done it in a wedding chapel on a very small counter interviewing brides. I've done it in sitting at the Howard Hughes seat of the Spruce Goose. But that was stationary and not off the ground. But now we are literally 5,000 feet above the Las Vegas Valley. What a view. How did you get to Las Vegas? Because you're not from here originally, but you've been a part of Las Vegas for a while. So you started out where?
Well, I started out born in Canada, as a matter of fact. Born and raised there as a hockey fan, growing up watching Wayne Gretzky.
Go Knights go.
Exactly. So I was born with hockey in my blood.
Alberta,
exactly.
And you were raised in, and then Vancouver, Canada, and then later attended high school in Erie, Pennsylvania.
That's right. Yep. So when we were teenagers, we moved from Canada to the United States in Erie.
Which has got to be, from my perspective, about 2 years ago, because you look really young.
Well, thank you. How does it feel doing your first interview at 175 knots?
I love it. I love it. I've learned a little bit about the plane so far. There's a lot to absorb, especially when we were doing the controls, and you were taking me through the checklist. Everything, and I've flown in planes where they've had the checklist on the old clipboard. This is no longer that. This is all digital. So they do have the checklist, which is required, but it's all on the screen. And we went through everything to make sure everything was safe. And we've got two passengers with us in addition to us, Teagan and Brianna, and we are flying, as I mentioned, over to the Las Vegas Valley. How far can this jet go before you have to refuel?
So we're actually flying in an SR-22 today, so it's actually not a jet. This particular one is the prop model. We have a jet that's available, but this one that we're flying today is the SR-22, and it has the range to go about 1,000 nautical miles. In layman's terms, that's from Vegas to Dallas. And I tell people jokingly that the airplane will outlast most people's bladders. So we typically recommend people to fly a 2.5-hour leg, get out, stretch, go to the bathroom, get gas, and then go again. Think of a road trip.
Yes, exactly.
You pull over in a rest area every once in a while, and this is, in essence, the same thing. You don't really want to do the 5-hour long hauls.
I'm also used to, and this is going to be a very non-linear interview because we're going to talk about you, about the school, but also about where we are and what we're doing, and we're going to jump back and forth. And in addition, the sound you hear, obviously, is the plane. And I did say jet earlier, but I'm a little discombobulated because we are 5,000 feet above Las Vegas, so it's really a prop, but he's got jets, and we're going to talk about all that as we go. You wanted to point something out.
Yeah, so I actually have to make a radio call here because we're just about to fly over Boulder City.
Alrighty.
And there's skydivers that jump out from 13,000, so we make sure that they know we're here so they don't jump into us.
Alrighty, go
Boulder
right
City
ahead.
area traffic. Cirrus is transitioning
is
west to
now
east just along the hills.
giving the tower
en route
notice
to
that
the Hoover Dam.
there are
Boulder City.
sky jumpers in front of us and aware of us so that they don't jump onto us.
Left downwind 27, Boulder.
So he's left downwind for runway 27, and in a matter of the next 60 seconds, 90 seconds, we're going to be right over the Hoover Dam.
So part of the excitement of being a pilot and learning to be a pilot is clearly, in addition to the flying experience, the views you get that you just can't get from a commercial airplane or from any other kind of viewpoint.
Absolutely. We get a front row seat to the landscape that God has given us here. I mean, it's pretty amazing, some of the beautiful geography that we can fly over. And you can get as low as 500 feet if you're in non-populated areas. Populated areas, we have to be above 1,000 feet. But imagine flying over the Hudson River at 1,000 feet.
Nice.
It's unbelievable.
Nice.
We're about to fly over the Hoover Dam here. We go a little bit higher because there's a whole bunch of helicopters down here. So we let them do the super low stuff. But
and of course, the helicopters are the ones with the propellers on top versus on the side.
You got it. Yeah, they would call it a rotor, but
yes.
yeah.
Of course. Yes. That was a very good attempt, a very bad attempt at humor.
No, I got it. I guess I'm being way too factual here.
No, I like technical people because clearly it's much more safe if you're technical than I am. So we're flying over Lake Mead, and when you are teaching people how to learn, students how to learn to fly, is there one holy grail? In other words, is there one singular line you tell them to always remember? Maybe it's something like always do the checklist, maybe it's something more global than that.
Yes, so every pilot, there's really 3 orders of priority with anything that you do. Aviate, navigate, communicate. Rule number 1, your top priority should be maintaining the airplane, making sure that you're in a position to be safe at all times, that you have command of the aircraft. Once the airplane is under control, then you navigate, right? So now we're starting to fly towards Lake Mead. And lastly is communicate. We tell other people what we're doing. We make sure that we're informing other people so that we get what we want. If we want to talk to air traffic control.
Well, just as an example with the skydivers a
yes.
moment ago, you had to let them know.
Exactly. So here we're coming up on the Hoover Dam. I've got this beautiful GoPro, so why don't you just hold it there, and I'm going to turn. If you guys want to take some pictures, this is really one of those beautiful spots. The Hoover Dam is right underneath us. I don't know if you see it here, Ira.
I do see it. And what was funny about it, when we were first flying over Lake Mead, and the Hoover Dam is so huge, and yet I didn't see it until you pointed it out.
Yeah.
Because we're that high up. And it's definitely a perspective you cannot get from any other way. You can't, because when you're flying in a commercial airline, as an example, yes, you can see a broader spectrum of the land, but here we're so close, and yet get the perspective of the marina, Lake Mead, and Hoover Dam as well. When you decided to move to Las Vegas, what was the reason? In other words, you had met your wife, Lindsay, there. You have 2 kids, so you're raising a family, you're running a business, and we're going to talk about all these hangars you're about to build as
sure.
well in a moment. But I'm curious about what brought you. My mic just hit, and then
you're okay.
Yeah, we're fine now. Again, we're up in the air, so it's a little bit more informal than when I do a typical interview or conversation on Talk About Las Vegas. But when you decided to come out here, what was it that brought you out? Was it the sense of adventure, Las Vegas being an unusual city?
So actually, I was working for Cirrus Aircraft, the manufacturer.
You were selling aircraft.
I was a demo pilot for Cirrus at the time.
And then you started selling as well.
Exactly. So that was the opportunity that Las Vegas afforded. There was a need for a pre-owned sales representative on the West Coast, and Cirrus wanted it to be in a location that people would want to go to pick up their airplane, to learn how to fly, it's the center of the West Coast in essence. So it was an arranged marriage in a roundabout sort of way. And then as soon as you get here, what's not to love, right?
Exactly.
We got no income taxes. We got nonstop flights everywhere that you possibly want to go. There's no flying bugs, right? We don't have mosquitoes, anything
right.
like that.
Exactly.
And no one ever had a heart attack shoveling sunshine, right? Moving from these places where there's snow. I mean, it is just an amazing.
Yeah, you don't have to move the snow out of the hangar. There's no snow.
Exactly.
Except maybe once every 5 years, there's a little bit, but then it's gone again. I just have to say again that the view from this aircraft is amazing. Just
Yeah,
Get your breath away.
You don't have a good point of comparison because you haven't flown other airplanes, but let me just sort of draw to your attention the size of these windows. The windows are huge, so that you get to enjoy it, you get to take it all in. The back seats in most airplanes sit very low and have very small windows, and a lot of times the back seat passengers can't see over the nose of the airplane. This is designed in such a way so that everybody's part of the flying experience. They can see everything, and truthfully it helps with air sickness, it helps with just comfort and general ease.
You don't feel claustrophobic.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you feel like it's open to the world. And the other thing I'd like to know too about the plane is looking at your monitors. There's two of them, one for you and one for me, and one of us is the co-pilot. We haven't decided who's that, but at any rate, but it's a nice, clear, high digital, high def screen that allows you to see what you need to see in terms of instrumentation and location. So it's very impressive, just the inside of the aircraft.
Exactly. Cirrus really designed an airplane to look like the interior of most automobiles. Before Cirrus existed, people would pull up to the airport in their nice vehicles. They would walk out to go to a flight lesson, and they would jump into an old jalopy that was certified before they were even born. Cirrus sort of reimagined the flying experience to make it more automotive, to appeal to the masses, to make it something that we're all familiar with.
And just for the record, Cirrus has Sirius radio in it.
Yeah, in fact, what is your favorite station?
Well, let's put the Sinatra station on, so you're going to come fly with me.
Let's see. Do you know which station is? You see, we got 160
we do.
stations.
It should be Sinatra something.
Is it rock?
No, it'd be under standards. So it should be coming up.
Oh, Frank
there
Sinatra.
It is, right
there we
there.
go. All right, let's see what we can get here.
Right.
Seriously Sinatra.
That's it. Seriously Sinatra on Cirrus Aircraft. So there you go. Just for a couple of seconds, we'll play it.
Right? Isn't that fun?
That's good.
I guess we've got On the Sunny Side.
Exactly right. That's great.
How appropriate, right?
It is.
It is super.
And it is. And we should point out that this aircraft has UV protection. And
Yes.
so, as a result, although our part is not tinted for safety purposes, the two passengers behind me, Teagan and Brianna, have tinted windows.
Yeah, so they have tinted windows in the back. Up front, we have UV protected windows. This is another thing that I think makes this plane unique, is that we don't have a bubble canopy. A lot of airplanes have a bubble canopy, which is great for visibility, right? But it's not great for sun protection. The beautiful stuff is down there. It's not normally on top of us. So, yeah, the comfort is fantastic here.
When you first take off, how does when you first take off, for example, here we took off from Henderson Executive Airport, which for people who are listening to us not in Las Vegas, it's very close to the Las Vegas Strip.
Yeah, it's 8 nautical miles south of McCarran, the main airport. Driving, it's 12 miles from McCarran?
Right, very close to the M Resort.
Yes.
I'm right in there, and then you have these wonderful hangars. And I want to, on the second half of our conversation, talk to you about the hangars that you're building next to the Raiders practice area. But before we get to that, though, a little bit more about our flight and your history. So once you moved here, and you said it really is kind of a hub for Los Angeles and the West Coast for people that are either purchasing aircraft, previously owned as you call it, and also taking flight instruction. When you flight instruction to people, what's their reaction? Because again, this aircraft is different from a typical aircraft where you have a lot more, I don't want to say non-digital equipment, but it has that look of what
technologically
advanced.
advanced.
Yes, right, exactly. So you're coming into a whole new situation, a whole new environment. What's the typical reaction of it?
Yeah, so I guess that's a fair point. So I moved here to sell airplanes, and then for 7 years before we had started the flight school, people had always asked, hey, can I just rent a plane? Can I take a lesson? I just want to fly to the Grand Canyon. I want to check off the bucket list, fly one of the best airplanes in the world, and fly one of the most beautiful places in the world. So that's when we started All in Aviation, was in 2016, in order to meet that demand that wasn't being met. So not only do we sell them, we can then rent them, we can teach people how to fly them, and this is a draw not only geographically, but a Cirrus airplane is a very sought after airplane within the aviation community. I don't know, did that answer your question?
It did. So let's take a break. My guest, Paul Sallach, is flying us 5,000 feet above Las Vegas in a Cirrus SR-22. Paul is the founder and president of All In Aviation. It's a Las Vegas-based flight school with 2 locations, one in North Las Vegas and the one we're flying out of Henderson Executive Airport. His company's Cirrus Aircraft is available for rental and flight training, as we talked about. For information, go to allinaviation.com. That's allinaviation.com. We'll be right back.
We'll be back with more Talk About Las Vegas with Ira in just a moment.
There's something new at the Neon Museum. The emerging technology of light mapping brings old signs back to life. Forgotten artifacts of our past that once blazed in the Las Vegas night are reanimated in a dazzling immersion of sight and sound. You've never seen anything like it because there's never been anything like it. Brilliant, a Neon Museum experience. Performances nightly. Join the experience now at neonmuseum.org.
Now let's get back to Talk About Las Vegas with Ira.
Welcome back. I'm talking with Paul Sallach as we fly 5,000 feet above Las Vegas in a Cirrus SR-22. This is a first for me. Paul's founder and president of All In Aviation, a Las Vegas-based flight school. It's got 2 locations, one in North Las Vegas and the one we're flying out of Henderson Executive Airport. His company, Cirrus Aircraft, is available for rental and flight training. And for more information, go to allinaviation.com. That's allinaviation, one word, allinaviation.com. And Paul, we're flying still over Lake Mead. You don't get a sense of how large Lake Mead is because we've been up in the air for a while, about 15 minutes, and yet we're still flying above the lake.
It gives you an appreciation of how powerful the Hoover Dam is, right?
It is in terms of
holding
control.
All this water.
Absolutely. Cold, not hot.
There you go.
Yeah, that'll work. Tell us some of the other places that when people come up with you on the Cirrus Aircraft, and maybe it's just you and Lindsay and the kids, you're coming up and flying. What other parts of Southern Nevada do you typically fly to? I assume Mount Charleston, Red Rock. They are fairly close by to where we are.
The beautiful thing about being a pilot is that the freedom is, you can go wherever the heck you want to go. You got an airplane, and as long as you don't violate any airspace rules, you can pretty much go anywhere that you want. So some popular places to fly out of Vegas that I like taking the family are Death Valley, go over to Sedona, up to Mesquite, has a really nice golf course right at the airport, so you can get you literally land, they pick you up in a golf cart, you go down, you eat lunch, and then they drive you back up to your plane in a golf cart. That's Wolf Creek Country Club. It's some of these hidden little gems that nobody knows about.
And do you as a pilot owner, do you share some of your location secrets with other pilot owners or other pilots, so they know about something you find out about someplace you've never been to before?
Absolutely, yeah. People, we call it jokingly a $100 hamburger, right? Where are we going to fly to for a $100 hamburger? Because a lot of the times it's really not the food that we're looking for;
right,
it's more the experience of getting there.
You are in a sense a jet setter in a way.
Exactly.
In this case, we're a prop setter.
There you go.
Yeah, which is okay. I'm used to being a prop setter rather than a jet setter, but it works out fine.
And we have a jet, so
yes, you do.
Just remember, we do.
No, I know, but for purposes of our interview today, I'm a prop setter, and I will be a jet setter at some point. I want to point out, too, because people always are thinking about safety. We did that checklist I talked about. Fascinating thing about this aircraft, it's so light that it actually has parachutes for the plane.
Yes.
As opposed to the humans, it actually has parachutes that eject if you need them and will lower the plane.
That's correct, yeah. And if you remember from that emergency briefing, I told you there's 2 things you need to remember if something bad happens to me. You remember what those were?
Yes.
What were they?
It was blue, red, red.
Perfect, yep. So we have an autopilot that will fully take command of the aircraft by pushing the blue button.
That levels the plane.
Levels the airplane. And if something bad's happening to me and you're not confident to land the aircraft, the best choice is to let the parachute land the aircraft for you. And what we do is we pull the red handle to shut the engine off.
Right.
And the second red handle lights off a rocket and floats the plane down to the ground under a parachute.
The rocket, I assume, is for signaling purposes?
And for what purposes?
For signaling purposes, the rocket?
No, it pulls the parachute out.
Oh, I see.
So the rocket, it has to get out of the airplane.
That's the way it goes with the rocket. The rocket takes the parachute out with it. Gotcha.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep, and then it floats the plane down to the ground.
Or in this case, like me.
Exactly.
So the fish scatter, and we wait for rescue.
It's one of those safety features that I'm so used to flying a Cirrus airplane that it's common practice. I think it's crazy to fly an airplane that doesn't have it. In the same way, would you get in a car that doesn't have airbags? Probably not, right? You almost take it for granted, but
yeah, exactly.
But that's the alternatives option in other airplanes is you're going to go.
I also would not get into a car that has a rocket that shoots out from the top, carrying a parachute.
Well, most cars don't.
Most cars don't. Yeah, that's quite it.
But speaking of airbags, that's what these are right here on our seatbelts.
Clever.
So in the front, if there's enough G's, this blows up and an airbag comes out so that we are protected.
Now that would be great for cars as well.
It would be.
That would be a good.
The cars, they come at you with the airplane that go with you. And I want to point this out because this is such a beautiful spot here that we're about to fly over. You notice that the water that flows through the Grand Canyon.
Yes.
That's the Grand Canyon right in front of us is the Colorado River. It's brown. And then at this magical spot where Lake Mead comes, see this how it goes brown to blue?
Yes, indeed.
It's one of those beautiful pictures that you almost just have to take.
I am about to, even though I am the co-pilot, take out my camera and get a shot of this. If I could get my camera to work. That's always a problem. Not always a problem, sometimes a problem. It is amazing, though, how... In fact, what I'm going to do is, while we're talking, I'm going to shoot video.
Here, I'll turn to the right so that you can get it maybe on the right side.
Now, you were telling me, too, that unlike commercial aircraft, if you do get a signal, you could actually talk to someone on your cell phone.
If you're low enough and you're picking up the wireless signal, then yeah. I mean, cell phones are a ground-based system with the antennas, so you have to actually be in range to get it.
Right.
But for sure, if you're picking it up, you can send a text, you can make a phone call.
And you have, obviously, Bluetooth technology. We're recording. I didn't have to bring my own recording equipment because Paul has his own Bluetooth setup in here, so that's why you're hearing us talk through the headset, and why you can hear the noise of the airplane as well, and get the sense of our being up in the air. And it's, I think, a much better sound in that sense than if I were to bring my own equipment, which the sound might just drown out, the background sound might just drown out the microphone. But in this case, we're using headsets, and it's working out really well. It's a great view that Paul is showing us right now. He's shooting some shots for me of. It's hard. I guess that's turquoise or green.
I don't know exactly what it is.
It's beautiful.
I'm not a geologist, but I do know a beautiful thing when I see it.
You do have a color chart, though, don't you?
Exactly.
So to work out. I want to talk a little bit more about the fact that I referenced it in the first half, and that is you are building 26 hangars right next to or right across from the Raiders who are coming into the Raider Stadium, their practice facility. So you obviously have great faith in the increasing exponential growth of private aircraft.
Absolutely. Now, coincidentally, one had nothing to do with the other. We've been working with the Department of Aviation, Clark County, since April of 2016, and at that point there was no inkling that there was even going to be an NFL football team in town. We didn't even have the Knights yet, if you can remember that long ago. So we planted the seed. We proposed to the county that we wanted to build hangars because this truly is the part of town that's growing. And it's really for aviators. It's the airport that you want to fly into if you're coming to Vegas. McCarran can be very busy, right? There's a lot of commercial airline traffic and
international traffic.
Exactly. So the fees are very high to go into McCarran as a small aircraft like this. And then North Las Vegas is it's just a longer drive to get to most locations that people want to fly into. So we saw the opportunity right when I moved here to Vegas that Henderson is where it's at. So we pitched in April of 2016, and I got to tell you, things have moved at the speed of government.
3 years years so far. Yeah.
3 years, yeah. We literally got to work with the Clark County. We had to work with the city of Henderson, of course. Deborah March has been very helpful in this whole pursuit. And then lastly, the airport gets funding from the federal government, so this project has to be approved by the FAA. So we're dealing with city, county, federal. Everybody has to approve it. And just last month we started moving the dirt to finally
That's an amazing project.
bring it to reality.
Especially for a small company like yours. When you have especially for a small company like yours, when you have the hangars built, are they going to be used for a combination of both flight instruction and your aircraft, or also you're going to be leasing out space hangars to other people, other pilots' aircraft?
Yeah, both is the answer. So think of it like a little bit like a marina. Speaking of which, we're flying over Temple Bar.
Nice. I also saw while you were talking, I didn't want to interrupt, the wonderful changeover from green water to blue water again.
Yep.
It's beautiful. You don't see that.
So in a lot of ways, the hangars that we're building are modeled after a marina, where you own an airplane and you need a place to store it, right? To keep it out of the sun. In Vegas, that's
especially during summertime.
Exactly.
110, 115 degrees.
And the Henderson Airport is at 100% capacity. There's nowhere to put an airplane if you want it, especially inside. So that's where we saw the opportunity 3 years ago. Is hey, people are buying airplanes. They want to store them at the Henderson Airport. So let's build hangars in order to provide a solution to a problem that exists. So that's what 25 of the hangars are for, is for storage. The 26th hangar is a 30,000 square foot maintenance flight training aircraft rental with a pilot shop. It's the retail storefront of the airport, in essence, where you walk in. You can buy your t-shirts, you can buy your pilot gear, you can rent a plane, you can fix a plane, you can learn how to fly.
That's going to be that main 26th hangar. The other ones are going to be more traditional hangars for
just like the hangar that we pulled.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. An interesting point you mentioned that I'd like to share with our listeners is that hangars, let's move aside Jay Leno and others, Jerry Seinfeld, but hangars are generally designed for aircraft. Now, they don't want you parking your cars in a hangar, but as long as you have one aircraft in that hangar, you can certainly put a car in there or two cars, depending on the size of the hangar, but you have to have an aircraft in the hangar.
That's right. And truthfully, some of your taxpayer dollars are going to an airport, right? And the airport is for airplanes, right? So it is a requirement that the FAA says that if you're going to rent a hangar at an airport that gets federal funding for aviation, that you have to have an aviation need and purpose for that hangar. So I think it's in your and my best interest that we don't have a bunch of hangars that are filled with non-aviation stuff, because then there's a capacity issue.
Oh, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
This is going to be an off-the-wall question, but since this is Las Vegas,
sure.
Have you had any celebrity or entertainer clients that want to learn how to fly?
Locally, no. We don't have any celebrities that want to learn how to fly. I've flown with people that have experienced it. But I got to admit to you, becoming a pilot, it requires you to be a student again, right? You have to get the books, you have to study, you have to actively want to learn. It's not
you have to engage in the process.
You have to engage in the process. It
Right.
takes time, it takes money, it takes emotional energy and intelligence, truthfully.
Well, that lets me out.
And a lot of times people they don't have the time for it,
Right.
is really what it boils down to. But once you are a pilot, this is such a time saver. This afternoon, for example, I need to run to Van Nuys.
Yeah, exactly. You can just do it.
I'm going to be
Right.
in Van Nuys in 45 minutes. I'm going to fly the jet there, and
So you're going to get a $100 hamburger again.
yeah, the jet will be like a $1,000 hamburger. But yeah,
That's pretty good. Now, I probably should ask this as the last question, but I'll throw it in now. Do I get like wings or something since I'm a co-pilot or a pilot?
well, so what I'll give you when we get there is I'll give you a poker chip that says that you went all in, because you're flying with All In Aviation, and
I like it. That's great. I
yeah.
will treasure it.
You've done it.
And I will tell you, when you first pilot this plane, and you're not used to it, and you've got your hand on the throttle, and you've got your hand on the instrumentation, it is a little I don't want to say nerve-wracking. It's more unsettling.
Sure.
I think would be the word.
You know, we're two-dimensional beings, right? So adding that third dimension is unusual. It's different. It's an act.
Well, I think we're three-dimensional beings. We're adding a fourth dimension.
Maybe, yeah. I'm just saying that.
I mean, I won't be overly technical.
You're getting off
but I don't think I'm
terra firma.
flat.
Yeah.
I think I'm the three-dimensional.
Yeah, I'm just saying you're adding the element of elevation and altitude, so it takes some getting used to. And speaking of which, let's have you do that so you can hear this on the
Sure.
radio. So let's go ahead and have you click off the autopilot there. Push that red button. So that means
that
now
button is off.
that means that you are hand flying the airplane. So
Nice.
what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and roll a bank about 20 degrees of bank to the left.
Oh, to the left. This
Yeah. So you can see there that's 10 degrees of bank. And if you go a little bit steeper, that's 15 degrees of bank. And as we roll that bank, you notice how the nose is slowly dropping a little bit.
Yes.
So add a little bit of back pressure. So pull it towards you.
Okay.
There you go. Because what happens is we lose that vertical lift when now not all the wing lift is going up. Now some of it's going to the side, so we have to counteract that. As you roll out, look at our kind guide there is letting us know that we're not at our target, but it's fine. Let's go ahead and roll to the right. So now that you've not had that initial ground rush of taking off,
Right.
it really is pretty simple.
It is. You just have to get used to that feeling, that slow roll.
Yep.
So now I'm going back to center. That's probably not the right word for it.
Yep.
Is it center?
Yeah, neutral
Okay.
bank. Yep. And now right here, let me take the controls just for 1 second. So we can roll at a little bit more quick of a rate if we want.
Yeah,
We
or
can-
maybe not.
Yeah,
Okay.
you know, here's
Speaking of that, do you carry a little bags with you in the aircraft?
We do, but thankfully it's very, very rare that they ever need to be used. So we're going to roll back to wings neutral. We can level the plane off pitch-wise, and we can re-engage that autopilot so that we can focus.
The autopilot
on other
is
things.
right there. We're perfect.
That blue button that we talked about.
That's a great way to end it. My guest has been Paul Sallach. He's been flying us 5,000 feet above Las Vegas in a Cirrus SR-22, and it's a great aircraft. And that's a prop one. He's also got a jet, a lot of jets. Paul is founder and president of All in Aviation, a Las Vegas-based flight school with 2 locations, one in North Las Vegas and the one we're flying out of Henderson Executive Airport, where he's building those 26 hangars. His company, Cirrus Aircraft, is available for rental and flight training. And for more information, go to allinaviation.com. That's allinaviation.com. And Paul, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, you're a pilot.
I am. This is
Nicely
great.
done.
Take
You
a look
took
at
the controls.
Next time, in the skies.
All right, thanks for going all in.
Thanks again.
You've been listening to Talk About Las Vegas with Ira. Each week, Ira David Sternberg talks with the celebrities, entertainers, writers, and personalities who make Las Vegas the most exciting city in the world.